Please welcome Ray Engen.
Okay, we on? Oh, hit the B button, please. Okay, we on? Everybody hear me? Yes. All right, so you are the fortunate people that have not had to vote today, correct? Now, those people have been walking around scared all day that they're not going to get enough people in there. And so one of the coolest things to do is let them hear how much fun we're having in here. But I know it's right after lunch, so you might be a little turkeyed out. So I want to test you guys a little bit. There's 3 sounds that a comedian or a humorous speaker loves to hear. And I'm going to split you guys up. This side right here, the people in the middle, and this side. The first sound you can guess is what? Laughter. So if I show finger 1, these people over here, show me what laughter sounds like, the best laugh you ever had. The next sound that a speaker loves to hear is that moment of discovery when they say something so deep and you get it for the very first time. Ooh. This group right here for number 2, let me hear that. Ooh. That's a little louder than the laughter. The third sound is applause. So, let's see how good you guys are. Because at the height of laughter comes the biggest discovery and the biggest learning moment when you speak. Remember that. There's your takeaway from this 3 minutes. Okay. No. One. You're 1 now. 1. You laugh. Ladies and gentlemen, the first person to talk to you today who's going to teach you how to be funny, please welcome the reigning humor champion. He hasn't been beaten in a humor contest in over 2 years in Toastmasters. Please welcome Cody Katula.
Hey. All right. Ray Engen. Keep it going for Ray. Down. What are we doing? So it sounds like you guys are doing good. That's awesome. It's going to be very difficult for me, Ray, if you keep doing that. I'll be like, and so. All right. So you guys, I'm very happy to be here to talk about humor. It's one of the things I'm passionate about and want to help you be a little funnier. Although, watching the evaluations and the speeches earlier, I think people here are pretty funny. So let's have a round of applause for all those people. Very funny. Yeah. So I'm going to talk about how to tell jokes. Brendan Murphy told a joke, and that's one way to do it. I'm going to tell you another way. But before I do that, a lot of times I know people are worried. They think, well, why? I don't want to tell jokes. You know, I want to just be funny. Good luck. No, they want to. And so really, I want to talk about there's 3 types of laughter that we get. The first type of laughter that we get in our lives, in our speeches, is what I call just spontaneous laughter. It's not a joke. It's just something you say, and for some reason, people laugh. That's awesome. The next type of laughter we get is there's a common situation, we have a common experience, and someone will make a comment on that common experience. For example, say somebody falls down the stairs, and you go, that had to hurt. Right? And you saw that a lot, for example, during the evaluation contest today. People were constantly referring back to what the speaker had said and getting gigantic laughs. Right? So common experience. The last type of laughter that we get is the laughter through jokes and funny stories. Now, the first type of laughter, again, is the most common, where you say, you're just talking and you say something and people laugh. Happens at home, happens on stage, happens all the time. The next type of laughter, that funny, pithy comment, that is the the type of laughter that we all sort of respect the most. We like that person who kind of makes that quick comment. And laughter, though, or the telling jokes, though, I feel that that's the most valuable type of laughter to be able to get, because a joke is comedy, humor, that's transportable.
Ooh.
Okay. Apparently, I thought that was deeper than you guys did. Okay. So what I'm going to now somebody's in the back. All right. So what I'm going to do is tell you how to tell a joke, and this is specifically in a situation we've all been in, like the situation Brendan Murphy was in this morning, when he's like, "Oh, I guess we have some time to kill." I'm going to tell you a joke. How many people have been in that situation where something, we got a few minutes to kill. Does anybody have a joke? Yes. And then someone tells a joke, and what happens after you tell that joke?
It's number 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Number 4. Oh, no, you shouldn't have said that. I get it. Common experience, right? So I'm going to tell you, here's how to tell a joke in that situation. So just somebody say, maybe one of these two guys, just say, we got a few minutes to kill. Anybody have a joke?
You got a joke? Hey, we got a few minutes. Does anybody have a joke? Anybody?
Oh, hey, I don't really have a joke. But the other day, I was at home watching YouTube, and I came across a video of this comedian, Mary Mack. And in her act, Mary Mack was talking about Western medicine. And she was talking about how, in her act, she said, a lot of people don't believe in Western medicine. A lot of people don't even like antidepressants. But for a while, my mom was taking them, and I felt great. That's a joke, yeah. So make it into a story. All right, so another example.
No, I was trying to get.
They should have cost it.
Hey, does anybody know a joke?
I don't really have a joke. But the other day I was watching YouTube. I was working from home. Which means I was watching YouTube. And I came across a video of this comedian, Mark Norman. He was on the Conan O'Brien show. And in his act, Mark was talking about how, everybody, there's so much hate, so much divisiveness in the world. And he said, in his act, he said, there's just so much hate. There's, you got, protests everywhere, hate groups. But I found out something interesting. It's okay to be hateful in America, so long as you're not specific. Yeah, so long as you're not specific. If it's like, if you say, I hate those people, everyone's like, whoa, bigotry, prejudice. But if you say, I hate people, yeah. Everybody's like, tell me about it. All right. Well, I don't know.
Does anybody know a joke?
I don't really have a joke. But the other day I was working from home, taking a nap, watching YouTube, and I came across a video of this comedian, Drew Lynch. What's happening? I came across a video of this comedian, Drew Lynch, and he was on the Conan O'Brien show. And in his act, first off, Drew Lynch, he speaks with a stutter, and he's not very tall. So in his act, he's talking about, he says, I speak with a stutter, but he says he's not very self-conscious about his voice. He says he's actually self-conscious about his height. He says, I was in a barn, I went up to a woman, and she had said to me, you're too short. So I said, well, people seem to enjoy life, and they say that's too short. Yay, Drew Lynch! Yay! So let me just kind of talk to you a little bit about what I've just done. So I've taken 3 jokes. They're not my jokes. They're Mary Mack, Mark Norman, Drew Lynch. But they're very funny jokes. And what I've done is I've told them in a way that gives them credit for the joke. You get a laugh. And so I would assume in some ways you probably think that I'm actually a little bit funny too. Oh, sorry. So, what are you talking about? No, so the way that this works, what you're doing is, when you go up to tell a joke, of your own joke, and you just go, I'm just going to tell a joke, people do this. I'm going to tell a joke. This is what people do. But when you say, the other day, I was at home, you're starting off a story, because stories begin, that's how stories begin, a long, long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Once upon a time, or the other day. And then where? I was sitting at home. What were you doing? Watching YouTube. And then something interesting happened. You're drawing people into that experience. So that when you introduce the comedian who told the joke, you are now playing a character. And you can do all kinds of things with your voice. You can change how you tell that speech. And even if it's not funny, you don't even have to say, if it's not funny, if people don't laugh at the end, you can simply say, and I just thought that was a fantastic joke. And so there's no pressure on you. Again, it's not your joke, it's their material. And another secret is a lot of times in a few minutes, or in about 3 minutes, no, about 1 minute, John's going to come up here. A lot of times people say, I don't want to tell other people's jokes. I want to write my own jokes. How many people want to write their own jokes and be? We all do, right? We all want to be funny on our own. But the truth is this: writing jokes does not make you better at telling jokes. But telling jokes will make you better at writing jokes. So what I want you guys to do is, after you leave here tonight, or hopefully not during this rest of the session, but go home, sit on the couch, watch some YouTube, and you'll find some comedians, you'll find some jokes that you can tell, and then share them with your friend. And once you've done that, you'll develop, again, the skill of telling jokes, and so that when you see something funny in your life, you'll have forms to put those funny things in. And to tell you a little bit more about how to find the funny in your life, please welcome John Lear.
Keep it going for Cody real quick. That was awesome. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how different it is to be stand-up comedy funny and to be speech funny. Those are two very, very, very different things. Because as a stand-up comic, I can say anything I want at any time I want. And I can use the F word whenever I want. So one of the things you want to do in any kind of situation is to know your audience, relate to the audience. Our keynote speaker talked about that, about relatability, about people understanding what you're going through. So often when I do my set, I'll say something like, how many married people do we have by applause? How many? Good. I am also married. We recently celebrated our 28th anniversary. Yeah. Thank you for giving it up for 19 happy years. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. She hates that joke. She says it's closer to 14. No, it's a very simple joke, right? What it's doing is it's creating that expectation of, oh, I see where this is going, and then it flips it. And that's the basic episode of any joke. It's raising your expectations for a moment and then changing them so that we naturally laugh. What you're looking to do is to incorporate pieces of your life or instances that you've seen into the stories or speeches that you're telling. Now, Cody gave a great example of how you might fill a moment, how you might be able to, let's say you get it in front of the Elks Club or something, you want to talk for just a little bit, like, hey, I just want to tell a couple of quick jokes. That's fine. Jokes are jokes. But when you want to incorporate something from your life, well, now you have to look at it differently. How many people think about speeches all the time? Right? A lot of us. Every time you go and do something, every adventure you have, every time you enter into a conflict, you're thinking, ooh, I got a story now. Yeah. And it's the same with comedy. Comedy comes from conflict or tragedy, taking a step back and looking at what's there to laugh at. For instance, I'm from Santa Rosa. About 18 months ago, we lost half our town to some fires that we imported from Napa. Bad idea. Now, the first I knew about it was 2 in the morning. There was a knock on the door, and I opened it. There was a huge fireman standing there. And my wife was like, is it my birthday? So there's a tragedy. There's a huge tragedy. My sister lost her house. We lost a lot of things. But you have to move on with life. You have to find what in those moments can inspire you to laugh at those moments and move forward. So sometimes when you're going through something, maybe not in that moment, will you think, oh, this is going to be funny later. Yeah, but when the evaluation speaker was talking, do you think when she was under that table that she was thinking to herself, boy, this is going to be so good. I can't wait to tell this in 10 years. No, she didn't. But if you start to adapt the mentality of writing things down that happen to you, not just for story purposes, but for joke purposes, for humor, you're going to start to change how you view all those moments. I have a notepad that I carry. Well, I have a couple of notepads that I carry around all the time for 2 reasons. 1, just to remind me of things that happen, and 2, to write down anything funny that I think of. You need to get into this habit of thinking, oh, that was funny. I'll remember that. You will never remember that. A friend of mine always says to me, he says, John, a short pencil is better than a long memory. And it's true. But what you need to also think about is when you start writing these things down, is to write down more detail than you would think. Because I will go back and I will look through these notebooks, and the other day I came across lobster buns. I don't know what that means. Evidently, at the time, I was like, that's hilarious. How could I ever forget that? No, I can't remember it. So, if you want to start finding the funny in your life, you need to start writing down anytime something makes your brain go, ooh, that's different. Oh, that's interesting. But funny doesn't come from happy moments. You went out for lunch with your friends. You got that salad you really liked. Boy, that was yummy. Brenda came over and she told us she was going to have a baby, and then we left. Wasn't that hilarious? No. But if Brenda has her baby at the table, that is a great and humorous story for later. There are so many things that are available to you once you start to realize that they're there. And some of the things that you may think, oh, I could never laugh about that. are actually things that tie us together as people. Now, I'm going to tell a very interesting joke that I will explain after I'm done. You may think, oh, I can't laugh at that, but you can. You're allowed. I have 2 sons. Very proud of them both. My oldest son is a transgender, female to male. So proud of him that he figured that out in his life. But I'm 51 years old. I've never been through this. So he's trying to teach me things. And he said to me the other day, he used the phrase gender fluid. And I said, I think you mean semen. And I was wrong. I was very, very wrong. That is not what it means. And I told that joke. And I had a couple come up to me and said, could we talk to you about that joke? And I was like, I don't think I'm going to be here. But instead, their child is going through that same development. And they're scared. Because that's a weird thing to go through from the outside. It's even weirder on the inside. But as a parent, all that's changing. So they sought that moment, that connection, and that's what humor does more than anything else. Your authentic moments of humor will connect you to an audience. Now, you need to be very careful about the material that you choose. Because here we're talking, this is about that situation. Would I use that if I was talking to a room full of banking executives? Probably not. I don't know their lives. I don't know what they're going through. This is not for the purpose of humor. It's just to amuse them. And I have to be careful about those kind of instances. So know your audience. Know who you're going in front of. There's no need to be edgy. You're not a stand-up comic. What you're doing is relating humorous moments of your life once you realize what they are. Now, don't be afraid to exaggerate a little. Was there a fireman at my door? Sure. Did my wife go? No, she was scared to death. But that made it funny. That made it something we could accept, right? And in a way, that little truth is more important than the reality. Because it got the point across that we can survive things, and we can move forward. My other son, also very proud of him, he is autistic. And he has a great sense of humor about it. The other day we went to go get our flu shots, and he walked right up to the nurse and said, I'm here for my autism refill. Now that is an exact recitation of what happened. I didn't add any punchline. He did that. And I asked permission, can I share that? And he said yes. Now he's done a bunch of other things that I think are hilarious. He does not let me share. And that's the other part that I want to mention is if you are in your life, you're going through a moment, and you're like, that's really funny what my brother-in-law did. Oh, I want to ask permission. Because that story, while you see the humor in it, maybe they don't yet. So don't feel like just because it happens in your life that it's your property. It's not. Okay? If they're willing to share it, that's fine. That's great. But you don't want to be mentioning them and then 2 days later for them to hear from somebody else that you told that story without permission. Okay, so think about that. So look for humor in your life, tragedy. How can you turn it around? Write everything down. You should already be doing that for your speeches and stories anyway. Be aware of what your audience is ready for and ask permission. I'd like to bring up our third contestant in The Price is Right. Give it up for the very funny and fabulous Mr. Ray Engen.
I guess you keep that. Am I on still? Is this on? Can you hear me? Can you hear me or no? Am I on? Okay.
Great job.
John Lair, ladies and gentlemen. So, how to be funny, how to uncover the funny, yet we work for a living. So how do we use funny in our pursuit of money? How many of y'all are leaders where you work? You have people that work for you, supervisors, managers, owners, things like that. In the workplace, being a leader is really about people skills. It's about unearthing a relationship that you never had before that you're going to make a very profitable engagement with. Has anyone met a stranger? Okay. Sometimes it's magical, isn't it? Sometimes it's creepy. What's the difference? What do you think? What? The tone? How they make you feel? I heard the tone. Like if I said, "Hi! What's your name?" That's magical, right? No? That's creepy? So I should change the tone? If I said, "Hi, what's your name?" That's creepier, isn't it? So it's not the tone. And there are so many things in our head that are hardwired. And what we have to do as bosses, as leaders in the workplace, even if you're not the boss, you can still be the leader. And your ability to work with people and have them accept you is very important. The thing that makes somebody creepy is when they walk up to you and they flip these little switches in your head. They're really one of 4 questions. Who are you? Why are you here? How long are you going to stay? Are you friend or foe? If I flip that switch, I can never talk to you. But if I don't, I can stay as long as I'm interesting, right? And you can actually see it on people's faces. If people don't know one another, they'll look at each other. Like if James and I don't know one another, we'll look at each other and there's a little furrowing in the brow and our chin drops just a little bit. Why do you suppose the chin drops a little bit if you're unsure of the person you're meeting? You're protecting your throat. Your most vulnerable area of your body is right here. What happens when you laugh? You throw your head back, right? Laughter is instant acceptance and trust. I'm saying, look, James, you can kill me if you want. So understand how to gain trust and how to gain acceptance. You can't do that. You have to do that as a boss. The easiest way to get somebody to think that you're smarter in the workplace than you are is not shutting up, okay? But it's asking people for their opinion. What do you think we should do on this? If you were sitting in my chair, what would you do differently? Ooh, okay. But the biggest thing that you have to do is teach people, give people permission to fail. Everybody stand up. Now, don't do this if you're not physically able. I don't have the insurance to cover it. But lock your knees and your ankles. Everybody got it? Now, without unlocking your knees and ankles, jump. You can't, can you? But if you bend your knees, you can jump, correct? You have to be able to fall down before you rise up. You have to give people permission to fail. And go ahead and have a seat. Go ahead and have a seat. Oh, 3. So, what the best people at work do is they don't tell people what to do. They explain in a story how they failed to get where you are today, messing up the same thing that they're telling you what to do. Does that make sense? Did I say that right? The best failure story I ever heard, I had the privilege to listen to a 4-star Rear Admiral speak. And I don't remember his name, but he told one beautiful story about when he got his very first star. And when he got his very first star, he was so proud. He got his first vessel for the very first time, and it is a dream come true. He's now an admiral in the Navy, and within 6 months of him in charge of this ship, somebody drove a tank off the side of the ship. He thought his career was over, and he had to go in front of a board. And the board had 5 or 6 people on it, one of which was a 4-star Rear Admiral. And the rest of them stayed silent, and when the meeting ended, the 4-star Rear Admiral had the last question. The last question was, what should we do with you? He actually reached for the star and undid it and started to hand it to them. And the 4-star Rear Admiral said, hold on there, son. When I've got my first star, they gave me the same ship that you're in command of today. In my first 6 months, my staff drove 2 tanks off the side of the ship. I have 4 stars. You're on pace for 8. If you relate a story about how you failed doing exactly what that person on your work staff does, they will follow you forever. They'll be very memorable and they'll follow you forever. Because if you just speak to individuals, if you listen to us for an hour, you're going to remember 3% of what we say. We put a pretty picture up behind us that goes up to about 10%. If you tell a story, they remember 50%. And if that story's funny, it's 70%. It's a London Business School study. So the stories you tell at work make you or break you as a boss or as an individual. If you can figure out a way to tell a story about your past life and make a point, that works very well. For example, when I was 14 years old, I got my very first job making hamburgers. I worked in a hamburger joint. I was 14 years old. I stood there. They gave me money and free hamburgers. Is this a great world or what? But I wanted to be the greatest hamburger in the world. I was planning my futures in the hamburger nation. And my boss was the most intense person I've ever met in my life while I was 14. What did I know? But I couldn't understand what he wanted. I wanted to be like him, but I couldn't understand what he wanted because English was not his first language and he didn't communicate with me very well. His name was Taufik. And when I walked in the room, here's how he greeted me every single day. Ray, go back, go fast. Now, what that meant is I had to make 2 trays of these, what we called setups, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion. And I'm back there, I want to impress Taufik, I'm going fast. Pickles are flying everywhere. Lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion. I got 75% done with the tray. Taufik walked in, looked at the tray, looked at me, pushed me aside and said, no! Picked up the stuff, and like a dealer in blackjack in Las Vegas, whip-cha. Done. Then he stood in the Superman pose. And he smiled and he said, now, you go fast. And he walked away. Boom, going fast. Lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion, lettuce, tomato, pickle, onion. 85% done with the second tray. Taufik walks in, looks at the tray, looks at me, pushes me aside. No! Whip-cha-cha. Done. We only needed 2 trays. What did he teach me? Go fast, right? Oh my God, I wanted to go fast. I wanted to be like him. I remember sitting there looking at him going, wow, he's fast. But he's like 30, he's old. I'll get there someday, right? So I wanted to go fast, but what did he teach me? As a boss, as a leader, what did he show me? Keep trying. Did I feel necessary? Did I feel important? Did I feel like I even should be there? What's the most satisfying thing about a job? Finishing something, right? When you're a leader and when you're a boss and you finish the work of others on your staff, it's the most selfish thing you can do as a leader. Okay? So those of you that finish work as a boss, I got seminars you can go to. Okay? Because you need to learn how to do that. But that's really not all that funny. That's a technique right there. All right. So, tell stories to your staff. Make sure they understand the point behind the story. Use a humorous story, they'll remember it forever. And there's a couple tips for you now. Okay? And that's my part of what we're doing here today. Now, what we want to do is we want to give you an opportunity to do something out of your presentation and have 3 comic minds look at it and maybe put a little more humor in it. Is anybody here ready to play? What's your name?
My name is Ron.
Ron? Come on up.
No, you got to come on
You
up.
got to come up, Ron.
Come on up.
Give it better.
Give it up for Ron coming to stage.
Hey!
There we go.
All right.
Need both of
Hey,
these.
Ron.
Okay, great.
Nice to meet you. Come on in here and get your microphone.
All right.
Let's hear it for Ron Fitch.
Okay, so you're going to tell your story.
Yeah.
Start your story.
My office is in Alameda. Around the corner is a mortuary. It's a true story. The other day, George died. George's wife came in. She saw George laid out in a brown suit. And she said, George doesn't like brown. Well, lady, all we had were brown suits on the rack. And I figured George would look good in a brown suit, so I put him in a brown suit. Well, George doesn't like brown. I want George in a blue suit. Lady, it's Saturday. All the stores are closed. Where am I going to get a blue suit? Well, I don't know. That's your problem. I'm going to split. I'm going to come back in a half hour, and I want George in a blue suit. She goes off, gets some coffee, comes back. Sure enough, George is in a blue suit. She says, now hold it a minute. I was only gone 20 minutes. How did you get George in a blue suit? Well, lady, they brought in another dude who had just split, and he had a blue suit on. So, I figured we'd take care of it. Well, hold it a minute. I was only gone 20 minutes. How did you switch the suits so fast? Lady, we didn't have time to switch the suits. We just switched the heads.
Oh, wait, 1 second. It's a great joke. This is a very good. It's a great joke, right?
Great joke.
It's an awesome joke.
It's not what we were looking for, though.
No, but like anything. So just a couple tips, right?
Yeah.
So first off, when he said one day George died, who was confused about who George was? Yeah. Right. So one of the first things of comedy is you want to avoid confusing people because there's a saying. It is confused people don't laugh. All right?
No confusion out here.
Yeah. Confused people also don't do what you want them to do. Don't confuse people. So just in that, if I were doing that joke, what I would say, you opened it up good. You opened it up well. What is the right word? Anyway. You opened it up. There's a mortuary outside of near where I work. One day, this guy named George, one day this guy named George, okay, you're not assuming that we know who George is. One day this guy named George died. Come in suit, right? That's one, so that way you're avoiding situation. A better way might be if we can find out who George is. So that would be one suggestion.
Okay.
The other suggestion I have, and this is a key thing about when you're telling jokes, right, is you need to let the audience know early on that this is a joke. How many people here thought at the beginning that this was actually
There's a
true
dead guy
story?
named George sitting around here.
Yeah.
Right?
Right? And so when people feel like what you're telling them is a true story, and then in the middle of it they realize this is not a true story, they go,
That's number 5.
So, and I thought you handled it really well. And you told the joke well, got a big laugh at the end. So I thought, excellent, well done. Thank you, Ron.
You did not.
Yeah.
You did not waver in your confidence right there, which is a good thing. Now, so Jerry Seinfeld once said, if it takes me 5 hours to take a joke from 8 words to 5 words, it's worth it. That joke can be told in about 10 seconds. My Uncle George died. And when I walked in there, he was sitting in a blue suit, and I told the guy, hey, wait a second, he's supposed to be buried in a brown suit. We don't have a brown suit. Okay, I got to go to lunch. When he came back, there it is. How do you get that suit in there? Well, he didn't, switch you got the idea right there. But you could do it all in like 5 seconds and move on. Stand-up comic is about laughs per minute. Storytelling is not about laughs per minute. But if you want to be the father at your daughter's party that everybody cringes when they start telling stories, or
Stop
the old
talking
guy
about
at
me,
the
Ray.
bar who tells the jokes and you can just say, oh, give me about 5 minutes and it'll give us the punchline. You need to take those jokes and condense it. And so that would be an example. That would be so well done and good confidence up there because people, who wants to do something? Me. I got some stuff. My name's Ron. Check me out.
Yeah. Round of applause for Ron.
And the biggest thing, I'm so freaking jealous of his hair. It's amazing. Okay. Give Ron a round of applause.
Thank you, Ron. Excellent. Well done. Yeah. All right.
Did you have anything?
Oh, yeah. What a shock. In a room full of Toastmasters, we had volunteers.
Zora, I think, is cued in on what we're looking for. So bring Zora up right here.
Yeah. Give it up for Zora, everybody.
Oh, geez.
That was kind of weak. You're supposed to like clap till she gets all the way up here. Okay. So Zora's going to give us a piece of something you're working on, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then we'll see what we got going from there. You are on.
It's part of the speech I has been developing and delivered it 2 times in last month. And recently, I learned to embrace more of my vulnerability, and now I'm turning them into the joke.
Okay, Zora, are you getting ready to start?
Yeah.
Okay, ready? Zora!
Zora!
I moved to this country 10 years ago, in 2009. The first job I found here was a position at a restaurant, a busgirl. I remember it was a slow Tuesday afternoon. I saw 2 ladies are sitting having lunch, and I noticed their water glasses are half empty. I took a picture, I walked there with a big smile. I said, "Would you like more water?" They gave me a silly look, and they said no. I came back to the front desk. My coworker said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I just offer more water." She said, "It's not water, it's white wine." I felt embarrassed. My face was hot. I'm sure it was red, and my whole body was cold. But I was grateful for one thing. I didn't pour water in their white wine, and I asked first.
So the second part, you could condense a lot of that into a much shorter area, because that's going to be something that you're going to use within a longer speech. So it's taking way too much time for you to get to the point of where you want to go.
And by the way, we aren't in the evaluation contest, so we'll just get straight to the point.
No.
We're not going to tell you how wonderful you are first, right? Okay. So we think you're wonderful for coming up here and doing this.
Yeah, we'll just lay that
We're
out
not gonna
right now.
sugarcoat.
Everybody's wonderful. Everybody's great.
Yeah.
That's not the point. Right?
You are really wonderful, but I really
Yeah.
hate you the way you stink, and you said that well.
Yeah.
You know, that won't happen here. Sandwich,
Thank
go
you.
ahead, back to you.
So the key is to find out what's the funniest moment in that bit to you.
So actually, this has this story is going forward. I haven't ended the story yet, but the whole concept was why we are different because of the background. I didn't continue. I can go for the background. Why I was like that.
So why we're all different.
Yes.
Right? That's okay. There are so many things that you have already in that story that's just sitting there, especially when you get up and said, "Yeah, I was hired as a bus girl, and I went to work, and I was wondering where the bus is."
Can I continue it because
You
it
know.
has cultural things in it?
Oh yeah, you can.
Yeah, yeah.
But hang on one second. Let me cover the thing. So, and I walked up, and these 2 ladies, their glasses were half empty, and I thought, man, how negative are they? You know, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to pick this thing up. We'll make their glasses half full. I'm going to show. No. Hey, what do you mean? I'm trying to help you out. You're so negative. You won't even take more free water. Like no. You know. So
Yeah,
you're going differences. There
the
you go.
rest totally changes now.
Okay.
Yeah. I was from Iran. I'd never order wine in the restaurant. Why? Because it is illegal. But do you know what we did? We learned how to make our own drink. Some of my family and friends, they make their own wine. Some, they make their own vodka. Can you guess what's my expertise? I used to make beer.
Okay.
Okay.
Excellent, very, very funny. I think, so I wrote my thing down. I also wrote this down, a prank I like to call the spitting urinal. I don't know what it means, but it's got it on here. All right.
Enunciate.
So what I wrote, what I was saying is, when you said, I know you say I was in Iran, and it's, I never ordered alcohol because it's illegal. Right? And I know that it's implied that what you're saying is that it's illegal in Iran. But if you pause and say, in Iran, I don't want you guys to panic. It's not illegal here. You can drink all you want. So it gives you the ability, and again, what you're doing then is for anybody that might be confused, you're saying in a rant. So that's a, again, and kind of even going back to what you said before around, you said I was a bus girl. I kind of didn't hear that. All right, I was a bus. When you say something, it's okay to say it again. So any word that might be a little bit confusing or might not be clear, it's okay if you say it twice. And sometimes it's okay to say, I was a bus girl. It was my job to fill up the water dishes, or the water dishes, the water. That was my job. So that when you talk about going out there, people understand. I know that Ray and John are going, too many words. But sometimes you need to have some words.
I would also suggest going with a specific when you can. For instance, when you went to your coworker, she said, "Oh, that's not water. That's white wine. That's not water. That's Chardonnay." That gives it that little emphasis of like, "Ooh, that's more than just what white wine is." And those little details can make it feel like a more realistic and full story.
Have you ever searched in your couch for something and found a quarter? Right? That's kind of what humor's like. The couch is there, the quarter's there, you don't see it yet. If you brush away a few layers, you find something underneath. Like what you said with, what did you say again when I don't want you to worry.
It's illegal to drink alcohol in Iran. Not here. It's okay.
Yeah, I don't want you to, so if I just walked up and said, I just don't want you to worry, there's nothing funny about that. But in the context of what that is, by just brushing aside and go, okay, this is how I'm thinking. Key thing to ask yourself when you're writing stuff that's funny, what is my audience thinking? And can I go in the other direction? Or what is my audience thinking? Because a lot of times, if I say what you're thinking right now, well, you're going to tell us or not, Ray? Okay? Then I get a laugh because I'm thinking what you're thinking. And that's a very powerful comedic tool to use to create inner dialogue. Inner dialogue is the funniest thing there is. When you're stuck on stage and you're sitting there and you've just totally eaten it and you don't know what to say, well, what do you say? Boy, right now would be a great time for me to come up with the next line in this story. And I tell a story about when I was a little kid and I was like in 5th grade, and I had to end the school play, and I didn't know what the last 2 lines were, but my father said, when you feel a thump in your chest, walk toward it, embrace it, never fear it, feed off of it. And I smiled when I thought about that, and I walked toward the audience, and I said, Lord Shakespeare has written tremendous lines to end tonight's play, but alas, I know not what they are. Okay? So
I just want to touch on one last thing, which is on the delivery, which was fine, but you could add some energy to emphasize the humor. For instance, we're talking about the illegal part. So when I said, "Oh, that's Chardonnay," so I went, "Oh, that's illegal." Oh, in Iran, it's okay here. And finding a way to deliver that with a little bit more energy and not just kind of that staccato thing, it'll shock the audience, it'll engage them a little bit more, and that's going to take practice to find the right rhythm for that.
And another idea for you is you walk up, and she has a look, right? And she walks up and said, I know what you're thinking. I am a busing professional. You know? Yeah.
Do we?
You can tell by my accent, I'm from Texas.
Just one other thing. You're telling a personal story, which is great. One of the things that there's 2 types of, well, there's many types of laughter we talked about before, but there's 2 ways that we laugh. We laugh with people, and we laugh at people. Right? And yes, laughing at people, oh, boo. But one of the tricks that we have, right, people talk about being self-deprecating, right? Self-deprecating. But there's a different type of thing that we do. And we do effectively, like you're doing here, in a personal story. And that is we laugh with the audience, at ourselves, at another time. So you can speak with confidence. You don't have to be that person who is fumbling around as a bus girl. You can have the confidence as a speaker, having us laugh at you when you were that person, because now we're laughing with you at you. So you can make that funny. And making those separations, making the story, that's a great way to bring your audience in and bring in a lot of laughter. And I think you're already on the path of doing that, and so I think that's awesome.
And another great example of that was our test speaker this morning. That moment where she's underneath the desk and then
Yeah.
fumbling for a phone. So at that moment, that was not funny, but 10 years later, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
How's that? Got 5 minutes? Is that?
Okay, I got somebody. Come on up, Brett. And I think we have one more person in the back. I think I saw raising their hand. I think I go to the bathroom. No.
Come on up, Brett.
Come on up. Come on up. Yes.
Our guy helping the room.
Yes.
Now, before we get going with Brad, can you see how valuable it is to have a couple people looking a different way at your speech than what you see? You see so many more things. Great speeches aren't written, they're rewritten through other people's eyes. Okay? So, thank you. All right. So, Brady.
Thank you. This is a real challenge because it's something very painful that happened this past week. And I'm trying to help people speaking tomorrow about this unpack it and understand it.
We only have
but
10
also-
minutes, Brady.
But
Go
also
ahead.
laugh at it.
Okay. Good.
Brady.
How do you live under the shadow of constant fear? This past week, students at Cal High, just 5 minutes away, did exactly that. Vandals had written on the bathrooms in spray paint that something terrible would happen on the campus on May 9th. And they gave permission for all the students not to come to campus that day. My son chose to. He was one of 20% of students that showed up. In some classes, he was only one of 2. But now how do we process that? The parents who kept their children home, justifiably so, are now feeling guilty for empowering a bully and someone who used that. But at the same time, we feel guilty for sending our son. Maybe we put him in harm's way. How do we live in the shadow of fear? And please, how do you find a little funny in that? Well, I'm desperate to laugh.
So let me,
That's interesting.
thanks for sharing that. You hang on that. So we need to get to the beginning faster. And if you said something along the lines of, have you ever faced death and walked toward it anyway? Something like that. Have you ever thought that maybe you would die, but it didn't stop you from accomplishing a dream? Something like that fast to get there.
Fast.
Because it's scary. Now, what I would like to have with that as you go through and tighten that part up, then you talk about your son. If you want something funny, it's going to be the dialogue of your son sitting in that class with only 2 people in it. Check it out. On a bell curve, I'm number 1.
Okay,
You know?
good.
Yeah. Hey, teacher, got a question. You got to answer it. I'm the only one. Right? I think I'm going to go out to the, oh, you're talking? I got to go number 2. Oh, teacher, that means, ooh. Sorry, I went off a little.
You know, as a Cal High alum myself, that's horrible, of course, and I have kids. My first instinct was to think something horrible is going to happen on May 9th, and school did.
Oh my goodness.
Especially since I've been in that building, and it would take a lot more than anybody could come up with to knock that thing down. It's just a cement block. But nobody's going to know that except for those of us who know it. So yeah, I think going with dialogue on his reaction, your reaction, and you know, it's really about the kids' experience and empowering them through humor, and that's what Ray pointed out. And like he was brave enough to laugh at what was going on and to be there. I'm like, I'm not going to let this defeat me.
I think one thing to think about, this is a very serious speech to you, and I think it's important that, as Ramona mentioned earlier today, is that you work that humor in. I mean, you've just heard some fantastic jokes.
Desperate to, yeah.
Yeah, desperate. You heard some fantastic jokes, but you have to figure out how you're going to work that in to keep this serious, because you don't want this to become a flip speech, and you also don't want it to become a thing where laugh, 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 laugh. Now we're serious. You want to have the tone. So I think take these ideas and figure out how you're going to use them. So like, can you go start your speech again? I'd just like to hear how you started it the first time.
Is that how the speech starts?
Say
I'm still
hi for us.
processing. Can I just pass on that and just
No.
listen to you guys? Because
Sure.
I'm still thinking about how I would speak it.
What another path might be to talk about how this is nothing that we faced when we were kids. You know, like here I am talking to my kid about, this possible danger. The worst my parents ever had to worry about was whether I could wear short sleeves to school, Anything that's from your own experience that you could point to and be relatable to show that comparison.
And then
I
a
don't have anything right
cathartic-
off the top of my head, but
And
that
is
was
there
like,
a-
oh my God, look at this, but haha, we survived that too.
I was
But
horrified.
actually, so what was your question?
Is
Yeah.
there a possible cathartic laugh at the end, a release they can have after we process living in the fear part?
I think that in this case, I don't know that a laugh is the right way to end this.
So
To
I
me,
would-
you got to
to me,
release.
it's-
You got to
it's-
release it somehow.
Yeah,
You
I
do,
would-
and I
I
think
would-
there's some laughter in there, but I think that this is a moment where these kids should be proud. They stood up. And they didn't let fear conquer them.
What I would,
And
I was going to say,
I would
th-
roller coaster
yeah,
this.
What
Yeah,
I
I
would
would totally
say,
roller coaster.
just as you begin your speech, you begin your speech, you say, does anybody know what's it like to live in be open in line? Does anybody do you know what it's
In
like?
the shadow of fear.
Do you know what it's like to live in the shadow of fear? How can we get out of that? No, I'm serious. How can we? So right, you can get a little laugh there, and then you can move through that, right? So you can use the tension that you build, release it. So those are some ways to get laughter in that beginning as you and staying on your serious topic as well.
Another one
Got more
quick
and
thing
more
about opening is you could go a little bit farther back and saying, my son came home one day and told me about the active shooter training they went through. And I was shocked until May 9th, 2019. Something like that would tie that in. Because listening to kids talk these days when they say, we have active shooter training today, I never had that once in my life. So every time I hear it, it shocks me a little bit. And so if you did that, it would get me. I'm kind of weird, but it would get me.
The worst
And-
projectile I grew up with was a dodgeball.
Yeah. Oh my God, spitwad.
All right. Thank you.
Brady.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
Giving it tomorrow.
Spitwad might be the thing coming.
I think we can do one more, I think? Or
What time are we supposed to be done? We got 2 minutes left? All right, make
2
the
minutes.
pitch.
Okay, does anybody have one quick relevant question for us that we can answer very briefly?
We can't, that's up to us. Can we answer it briefly?
That means I shut up and they.
Yeah, that would be. Way back over there?
We got one over here. You already had one. We got one over here.
Okay.
You know,
You don't-
that's
I was gonna say-
each of us will answer that question.
Okay, you don't tie it in, you uncover it, and it's already in there. That would be my answer. You don't put a joke in a speech, the speech creates the joke for you.
It's in your story somewhere. And that's the awareness. That's looking at those situations and finding the twist that's going to help uncover where the conflict can lead to humor.
Real quick.
So I told 3 jokes from other people, right? So the first joke was about medicine, Western medicine, antidepressants, how taking care of yourself is important for taking care of someone else. You can do that joke. What you learn from the joke, make that part of your speech. The second one was about hate. This is an example of hate. It's okay to hate. Apparently, it's okay to hate in America as long as you're not specific. What is it about hate? If you're doing a speech on hate, open with that. The other joke about being self-conscious. He talks about he's self-conscious about his height. They're all things that we feel self-conscious about. So if you're going to use a joke, what do you learn from that joke? And have that be the subject or the topic of the speech you're using or part of the speech. So that's how you would work a joke into a longer speech.
Okay, do you see how working with people makes things easier, right? And we work with some people and we have fun doing it. We like to, when we kind of do stuff like this, we give an offer to the people that are here. If you wanted to coach with one of us for 1 hour, we'll do it Toastmaster cheap price. Oh, yeah, that's like less than it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be $57 an hour, but you put the wrong slide up. Thank you very much. All right. So there's no difference between 1 and 3 of us if you do that. Okay, so basically if you want an hour of all 3 of our time, $97 does that. If 1 hour, I guess it's now $35 since it's up there. But we have we can take credit cards, checks, things like that. That's our one push for today. That's like extremely cheap, but so are Toastmasters, and we know that. So, okay. Stand up!
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out.
This is on film.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you so much.
All right. Bring back our big friend here.
Thank you.
Give it up for Ray,
Okay.
Cody, and John. Let's give it up for Ray, Cody, and John one more time.
Hey.
Yay. I have some gifts for you.
All righty.
I saw
Thank
that
you.
earlier. Like, oh, thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
you.
Great job.
Thank you. Thank you for your project.
Great job. No problem. What's that?
Yes.